After you did sequences last lesson, where you would just have to come up with the next couple of numbers, okay, and I described the sequences in words. Today we're moving on to how to write a sequence if I give you the instructions with algebra, okay. So your heading is using a formula to write a sequence, okay, a little bit of writing to do at the start, okay, so you need to get this in your books. So basically, if we get the algebra right, then describing a sequence with algebra is quicker than using words, okay, and more useful to us, okay. And the algebra you're going to be using, it looks a lot like the equations that you did maybe in year 6 and definitely in year 7, with one big difference, that when we're working with sequences, we use the letter n rather than the letter x, okay. We usually use the letter x when we're solving equations, but for sequences it's n, and n is all to do with which term you're on. So we talked about terms in the last lesson, saying that a term is one of the numbers in the sequence. So if I wanted to talk about the third number in the sequence, that is called the third term. If I was looking at the 10th number in a sequence, that would be the 10th term, okay? When we do our algebra, n stands for which term you're on. So if you're working out the first term, n is 1. If you're working out the second term, n is 2. If you're working out the 10th term, then n equals 10. If you're working out the 100th term, then n equals 100. So n stands for which bit of the sequence are you on. Are you on the first term, the second term, the third term, and so on. Okay. Pause the video if you need to write this down and I'm going too fast for you. Okay. Here's some examples then. So I'll do these with you, but at any time if you think you can do them before me, then pause the video and try them on your own. So it says, write the first 5 terms for these sequences. So what we're going to do is we're going to work it out when n is 1. We'll work it out again when n is 2, when n is 3, when n is 4, and then we'll stop when n equals 5 because it said to do the first 5 terms. And then I put these numbers into this formula, a little bit like when you were doing your graphs last week and you had a table to fill in and you were putting numbers into a formula. You're still doing that, except the formula's got n instead of x, and it's not in a table but it's just in a list. So when n equals 1, I do 3 times 1, which is 3, and then I add on 1 to make 4. When n is 2, I do 3 times 2, which is 6, add on 1 makes 7. Then I do 3 times 3, which is 9, add on 1 makes 10. I do 3 times 4, which is 12, add on 1 makes 13. And then I do 3 times 5, which is 15, add on 1 makes 16. Okay. And if you remember from last lesson, I said that the gap it goes up in, so it's going up in 3s, look, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, it's going up in 3s because we're a lot like the 3 times table. Okay, we actually did the 3 times table, look, we went 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, but we added 1 as well. So it's like the 3 times table with 1 added on, 3n plus 1. Okay, let's do another one. So 5n take away 3 this time. So again, look, n is 1, n equals 2, n equals 3, n equals 4, n equals 5. This time we're doing 5n take away 3. So 5 times 1, which is 5, take away 3 is 2. 5 times 2 is 10, take away 3 makes 7. 5 times 3 is 15, take away 3 is 12. 5 times 4 is 20, take away 3 makes 17. Okay. 5 times 5 is 25, take away 3 is 22. So what am I doing? I'm doing the 5 times table, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and I'm taking away 3. Okay? So we can say that this is the 5 times table. Last time we had the 3 times table, okay? Which means we can go a little bit quicker now on some of these once you realise that the n part tells you the times table. So this one must be the 7 times table, because it's telling us to times by 7. It's the 7 times table with 5 added on. So this time I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to write down the 7 times table. 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Okay, so 7n is the 7 times table, and then underneath I'm going to add on 5. So 7 add 5 makes 12, 14 add 5 is 19, 21 add 5 is 26, 28 add 5 is 33, and 35 add 5 is 40. It goes up in 7s because it's like the 7 times table, but we added on 5 as well. Okay, so this is the quickest way to write a sequence if it's a times table one. Write down the times table. So I wrote down the 7 times table first of all. That's the little writing on the top, and then I added 5, and that made the sequence for me. Okay, one more of these then. So this time, what times table is it? It's the 4 times table. And what are we doing to the 4 times table? We're going to take away 2. So if we start with the 4 times table, 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and I take away 2 from each of those, I'll get 2, 6, 10, 14, and 18. Okay, the 4 times table when you take away 2, 4n minus 2. So that's how you do ones which have got a times table. So 3n, 5n, 7n, 4n, they just mean the times tables. If you get one which has got n squared, now that's a little bit different because it's not a times table. You're going to have to go back to writing out n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3, n equals 4, and n equals 5. Because this time we're not timesing n by a number, we're timesing n by itself. Squared means times by itself. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, and 5 squared is 25. Okay, that's the square numbers, because n squared means the square numbers. 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, and so on. Okay, and then I've got one more of those square numbers. Let's move it down a little bit. So this time it's n squared plus 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this time I've got to square it. So 1 squared, add 5. 1 squared is 1, add 5 is 6. 2 squared, add 5. 2 squared is 4, add 5 is 9. 3 squared, add 5. So 3 squared is 9, add 5 is 14. 4 squared, add 5. So 4 squared is 16, add 5 is 21. And then 5 squared, add 5, 25, add 5 is 30. Okay? So when it's got squared in, you'll have to work them out one by one. Okay, n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3. When it's got a number like these ones, you can just cheat and use your times tables and save yourself a bit of work. But if you want to, you can write it out fully like that. Okay. Now, you don't have to work in order. So for each of these, look, I'm just going to work out the 20th term, but I'm not going to write out all 20. I'm just going to jump to the 20th. So I'm not going to do n equals 1, n equals 2, n equals 3 all the way up to 20. I'm just going to jump straight to what happens if n is 20. So this one says to do 7 times 20, 7n, take away 1. So 140, take away 1 is 139. This one says to do 3n. So 3 times 20 is 60. Add 8 is 68. This one says to do 5n. So 5 times 20 is 100. Add 3 is 103. This one says to do 6n. So 6 times 20 is 120. Add 3 is 123. And this last one says n squared. So 20 squared, that's 20 times 20, which is 400. Add 3 makes 403. And you can do that for any n that you like. So if I wanted to do the 100th term, that's easy. If I wanted to do the 100th term, look. So if n is 100, I'll just do the first one. You would do 7 times 100, which is 700. Take away 1 is 699. So you can jump to any number in a sequence. All you've got to do is put that number into the formula. If you wanted the 50th number, put 50 into the formula and work it out. If you wanted the 10th number, put 10 into the formula and work it out. Okay? But if you want to do the first 5 numbers, then you've got to start from 1 and go up to 5. Okay, and sometimes if it's a 3n or a 5n, one like that, you can just use your times tables to do it, and it's a little bit quicker. When you get squared ones, you have to do your square numbers, 1 squared, 2 squared, times by itself. Okay, hopefully if you've understood that, you can have a go at the little worksheet I've attached. Let me know if there's any problems.